welcome to the IAM CX Podcast. I am your captain for the day, Roger Nicholas, Director of Customer Experience at Island Analytics and Marketing. And we have a great session here for you today and a great guest. The title of our episode is Closing the Customer Knowledge Gap, What's Missing from Customer Understanding. Now, most our guests and viewers and listeners out of the US, the Caribbean, Africa, the Middle East, the Far East, and Europe, you know that we focus mostly on customer experience management and all the things that facilitate business growth, whether it be voice of customer technology or customer experience measurements. But one of the areas I think most businesses miss is truly taking a granular approach to understanding their customers before engaging in the next level of business, which is strategy and hiring and recruitment and product design and so on and so forth. So our guest today is going to help us, uncover some of those gaps and show us strategies to reduce those gaps. Let me introduce Eckhart Böhme. He's the founder and managing director of the strategy consulting firm Unipro Solutions out of Mainz, Germany, if I'm not mistaken, correct? As the former curriculum architect for marketing excellence at Microsoft Corporation and an internationally recognized jobs to be done expert, Eckhart will help us understand how big the customer knowledge gap is for businesses and some key strategies to correct or reduce that gap. Eckhart was the initiator and co-developer of the Wheel of Progress Canvas, that's trademarked, a tool for structuring qualitative customer research. He's also the developer of the Customer Progress Design Method, and Eckhart is a frequent guest at Business Podcast and has taught classes to students in the master's program at Wiesbaden Business School and Michigan State University. For those of you from Europe familiar with German accents, please do not laugh at mine. That was my second attempt at saying Wiesbaden. I'm hoping I said it correct. Did I say correct, Eckhart?
Yeah, Wiesbaden.
Wiesbaden. Okay.
Wiesbaden.
All right.
Yeah, it's very close. Very close.
Forgive me, Wiesbaden College. Forgive me. I won't make that mistake again. So, folks, just welcome our guest, Eckhart Böhme. Thank you so much, Eckhart. We appreciate you taking your time to come share our mission of saving the world with customer experience.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger, for the invitation. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be on your show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Kind words. All right, so let's jump right in because I know we have a lot to get through and we want to get the audience out of here in about 45 minutes or less. So can you briefly tell us what problem did you identify that led you to creating Unipro Solutions after your Microsoft experiences?
Yeah, to give you a very brief history of myself and my motivation to start Unipro Solutions. I worked for a long time for Microsoft Corporation. In my last role, I was responsible for the marketing training. So we worked with many great business schools on bringing in the wealth of marketing knowledge. What I was missing at that time was not so much great frameworks and theories and case studies, but really practical or pragmatic tools and frameworks that we can use to create better products, better services, and better customer experiences. So in 3.5 years ago, I started Unipro Solutions after having worked as an independent consultant on the jobs, on implementing the jobs to be done, theory, helping clients to adopt it. And that brought me to kind of bring it up to the next level, starting a company and building a business around that kind of that business planning practice.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing that. That perspective and context is important. So in the context of improving customer understanding to improve strategic decision making, how wide is that gap of customer understanding for businesses, Eckhart?
I think that gap is quite significant, and not so much because we don't have any data, but I believe it's because we don't have the right data to make decisions. So typically we look at this voice of customer data, big data, doing data mining, looking at CRM data and so on. But there's a whole set of data that we don't know. There are insights missing in terms of what customers want to accomplish, how important, how urgent it is to fix something. And my observation is that, yeah, there is a lot of data, but it's not the right data. And we need to have a different set of data. And so we built this mental model of what it takes to make progress in life or in business, and then turn that into a data model. And that is a very different set of data that we now look at. And when I compared the delta between the start of a project where we capture the organizational knowledge of customers with the data that we gathered during interviews, I found out that there was a huge gap, and that gap led to, yeah, like a big aha. It's like, wow, we didn't know that. And we could even quantify that gap.
Okay. So we're going to get into that later, because because we're a customer experience company, we believe in data. We believe in what behavioral science says and evidence-based decision making. And so to know that there's data specific to what you're talking about in this gap, that'll be really good for our audience to see something. So I want to dive into a little bit about the article that you wrote, Measuring the Customer Knowledge Gap. You talked about biases and knowledge gaps. Can you tell us more about what those biases and knowledge gaps are and how it can affect strategic decisions?
Yes, let me show you a slide that talks about that observation. So I'm going to forward a little bit here so you can see the chart. There was quite a significant gap, as I said, in the knowledge of customers. In certain areas, it reached like 90%. So in other words, like 90% of the data that we gathered in interviews was not known to the customer. And a huge amount of the plausible knowledge about customers could not validate it, up to 81%. On average, it was like only 30% of the organization's assumptions about customers could be confirmed. And this is what I tried to show on this Venn diagram, that you can see the smaller circle was all the sum of items or customer knowledge the organization was aware of. The green one, which is much bigger, is what we gathered in the interviews. And the orange, that overlap between the both, is only 30%. That's the knowledge that was confirmed or we could kind of validate. Wow. And that should ring an alarm bell, because if we don't do any customer research, or if we don't do it in the right way, we may be on the wrong path, because we may have perceptions that that are not true. I call this the plausibility gap. So all assumptions that we make or that we have, or our own knowledge, may be plausible, but you don't know your own biases and blind spots. So you don't know what you don't know. And this is what we need to find out when we talk to customers. And so we have this blind spot of this huge area not known. And then we have also cognitive biases. And you could, when you went through the data and compared item by item, what did the customer say they know? What did we observe in customer interviews? You could clearly see there was a huge bias when going into making these assumptions in the documentation of the customer knowledge, because they had ideas, they had wishes about a product that they desperately wanted to be true.
Yes.
But in the marketplace, it was not
confirmed.
it was not confirmed. So that's what the picture is. So we believe everything we know makes sense, it's plausible, but there's this huge area that we don't know, and also what we know maybe not right.
This is ground shaking, Eckhart, because I can almost predict that those of us watching right now are a little uncomfortable in our seats, because the truth of the matter is, I think we've all made lots of huge strategic decisions that required significant amounts of resources and people involvement and engagement and internal processes based on incomplete information. And that can lead us down so many negative paths. It could be improper or suboptimal product design. It could be missing wallet share in terms of our marketing strategy. Our marketing strategy could be misaligned because we're not really focused on the ideal customer for our product or our solution. There's so much that can come out of this epiphany. This is something else. Okay. I'm a little scared for us and everyone else now, because you're coming with data. So
yeah.
So do businesses truly understand the value of what they don't know about their customers, Eckhart? And is that something that can be quantified? Because you mentioned there's some ways to quantify things before.
Yes. First of all, I want to mention and give credit to Clayton Christensen, the great Harvard business professor that is one of the protagonists of the Jobs We Done theory. And he wrote in his book, Competing Against Luck, about this issue, that we have all the data. And he didn't provide any examples or quantifications, but that's what he said, is we have so much data, but not the right data. And we looked at 6 different dimensions of variables, if you will, starting from jobs to be done. So what are the things customers want to try to achieve by acquiring a product? What are their pains associated with these customer jobs? What are the gains? What are constraints? What are the solution sets they are buying? I mean, not only the core product, but fringe products, assisting products, and so on. And also events. So what trigger events drive people in the purchase process? So we look at two scenarios. One is how people buy, which is super important in order to help them to make progress, and also the product or service use. And so from the user perspective, we want to know the experience. So we need to look at the right data for both situations. And so we saw that there are typical data sets that are not known to the organization. One of them was like constraints. And constraints are factual things in the way of making progress. They can be things related from my health, my finances, but also kind of laws and requirements from government organizations, but also time. I can have time constraints. Those were up to 90% not known to the organizations. Another one was gains. And gains are the positive outcomes of performing customer jobs. And I was not surprised when I look at that, because these are not typical conversations or voice of the customer data that I get. Is that, what are the gains? What did you really enjoy? What positive outcomes did you get of using the product? But those are important, of course, for our organization, for sales, for marketing, for storytelling, and really understanding how our products and services create value. And another one that comes to mind is also customer jobs. Many customer jobs associated with the customer jobs that I'm serving as an organization were not known as well. There was a huge gap. And if I don't know the customer's job, and it's not buying that drill to make a hole in the wall. It's something customers want to accomplish. If I don't know those customer jobs, I cannot serve them well, like you said before. If I don't know the jobs to be done, then I don't know what job to apply for. So across 6 dimensions, there were some that really were outstanding in terms of there was no awareness or little awareness in the company. And there were some that were a little bit more better known, like pains. I think there was a little bit bigger overlap, but nevertheless, there was still an area of pains, customer pains, not totally not known to the organization.
Wow. So the gaps are huge. The bottom line point is the gaps are huge and they're costly. That's what I'm hearing. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that's what you're getting as well. You know, when we talk about customer experience, we talk about the customer, understanding the customer decision journey, as well as understanding the customer journey itself, and that customer journey being how the customer's engagement with our processes affect them and their ability or decision to buy, to stay longer, and to tell or refer people. And so if we're starting not truly understanding the needs, the expectations, the pressures on the customer, if we start out with incomplete information at that point, that really affects everything we design for customer journey, the people we hire and train, of course, our marketing strategy. For those drivers we incorrectly determine are the drivers for people buying or using our solution would be wrong based on what we're finding now from Eckhart's research and Eckhart's knowledge. Thank you so much for that clarification, Eckhart. So the next question I have then is can you describe for our audience what your findings have identified as the missed insight in the customer knowledge gap?
Yeah, so when you buy and use a product or service, there are a lot of emotions at play. There are emotions like at the beginning of the customer journey, emotions that drive you to a new solution. At the same time, there are emotions, we call them forces, that hold you back. They're like a rubber band. It could be like your habits, your comfort, being in the comfort zone. So then along the customer journey, there are also forces related to the new product. So there are forces that pull you over because you like the product, you think it solves your problem, but there are also anxieties like, well, I don't know what they are promising. Is it really, can they really perform that well? And there are also emotions related to, and when we talk about emotion, we also talk about thoughts, positive and negative thoughts related to like an envisioned new situation. It's like between the old and the new world. So between the status quo and buying something new. It's like when people form their opinion, they think about the desired outcomes. What do I want in this new world? What do I want to accomplish? And what do I want to avoid sometimes? So when I think about like moving, I don't want to move somewhere where there's a lot of noise or there is crime or it's not safe. But I want a new home with a nice garden and great schools and so on. And so we want to understand all these emotions plus positive and negatives from experiences. So that they are not related to the journey, but to the actual use of the product or service. And there are out of the 12 elements that we look at in our data model, it's also our mental model. 8 of them are related to emotions, and those are typically not known to organizations. But the better we know them, the better we can serve them. We can, for example, help people stop procrastinating, because we know if you procrastinate, then it may hurt you or you have a regret. So if I just had done this 3 years ago, I would be better off. So we can think of ourselves as service providers and provide that service, helping people to show what it means to procrastinate and that they are in fact better off and doing something new. So we're encouraging them to kind of get the journey started. And also in the other phases of the customer journey and in the use phase, we can work with those emotions. We can understand what people really want and see what they get from what we are offering today and fix that delta. And then we can also, for marketing and sales, it's great to get all these customer stories from existing customers, how they went about buying the product and what they really liked about the product, maybe where they had concerns with it, anxieties. And also the same is true for the experience phase, where you can find out what people really appreciate, all the outcomes, also surprising outcomes, positive outcomes from using a product and service. And there are many. When I think about all the projects, there were always surprising outcomes, positive outcomes, but also negative outcomes, I have to say.
Yes.
In all fairness, there are sometimes negative consequences from buying something new. And the better we know those positive and negative things, the better we can work with them. We can equip, as I said, marketing and salespeople with that real world data, so they can create more relevant, more resonating messages with customers.
Yes. I see it. We try to share education about customer experience all the time on all of our different platforms. And one that never gets old, Eckhart, is that 1 in 26 customers who have a complaint actually file a complaint. The other 25 disappear without the business even knowing when, why, or how much money they took with them. With the bigger end result of them telling 9 to 16 people how bad their experience was. What you just described, especially if we can empower our leaders and our execution team or operations team with that type of insight about the impact to the business of emotions. You said 8 out of 12 of the factors or variables were emotion-based. If we have a better understanding of that, we can really prepare them to engage customers in a way that softens the landing when it's a negative feeling or negative concern or fear, and amplify the experience when it's an exciting one. So, for someone like Disney is somebody who'd pretty much appreciate these nuances of understanding customer emotion if they don't already know that. But if all businesses use that approach, it could really set things into a different direction. So this is incredible stuff. So there's truly, it's a big mistake for those of us who try to say that we know our customers. Now we don't know our customers. I want to ask.
Yeah, and I appreciate that people want to be customer-centric, but yet many people don't fully comprehend what it means to be customer-centric. And I see a lot of work and a lot of models and a lot of tools proposing an inside-out perspective. And a classical example is like customer journey mapping, which typically is done not asking customers about their journey and mapping that, but mapping your own processes to the journey. We know we cannot control. We cannot control the customer journey. The only one who controls the customer journey is the customer. And we have so little time,
not a linear
so
process.
touch points.
It's a linear process.
In that huge customer journey, that we can try our best to make it to make ourselves as helpful as possible, creating resources that help customers to make progress. But we need to get out of our customer-centric, self-centric, inside-out perspective, and push that out for a long time, as long as possible. Defer that to the end, and spend most time, in my mind, trying to understand customers.
Yes, agreed. Totally agreed. Well said. Well said. In our off-air conversation, Eckhart, you described something called the benefits matrix. What is that, and how can that help a business strategically?
Yeah, let me talk about it, and then I'm going to show you a slide. The benefits matrix is, in my mind, one of the most undervalued tools that Alexander Osterwalder, the creator of the business model canvas, and also he's one of the authors of value proposition design, where he features that benefits matrix. It's the most underutilized and most undervalued tool, but yet it is so powerful, and I tell you why. We have to decide ultimately what customer jobs to serve. What do we want to apply for?
Right.
There may be 100 customer jobs. I mean, we cannot perform all the jobs for customers. We have to be very selective. Yet we have to choose customer jobs that are meaningful to customers and to our organization, because there could be customer jobs where we spend a lot of effort to build services and products around that yield very little outcome for us as a company. We don't want that. We want to find the sweet spot. What's important to the customer? What is urgent? What is not well done today? Combined with our business opportunity. Are there many people that would pay a little maybe, or are there a few people who would pay a lot in order to get that customer job to be done better served? And the benefits matrix brings both worlds together, the customer perspective and the organization perspective. And I'm going to show you an example. And then I'm going to talk about another very nice side effect of working with that benefit matrix. So let me share my screen again. And that is the benefits matrix. As you can see across, we have a column with customer jobs. We do have 4 criteria: importance, tangibility, satisfaction, and lucrativity, and an overall value column. And you have to imagine that you apply these criteria. These are rational criteria that we can apply to customer jobs. And then, of course, these decision-making criteria help us to decide what are the customer jobs I want to apply for. Here's an example. So you can see in yellow customer jobs to be done, like performing a service or managing stuff or whatever the customer job is. Then we have an area with a decision-making criteria where, in this instance, we work with 2 groups, Team Red and Team Blue. And each of these teams consisted of stakeholders from the organization. There were people from development, strategy, product management, marketing, and sales involved. And they worked in mixed groups to assess and evaluate these customer jobs along these 4 criteria. And so one went from the top down, the other one from the bottom up. They couldn't cheat, but the other team did, and then they compared results. So in terms of why did you assign like 4 points, the highest number of points, and the other team only 2 or 1? So they could have conversations about maybe clarifying misunderstandings about the customer job or the criteria, and come up with a list that was created jointly together. That's the last column is the value. You can see it's already stacked, ranked by the number of points both teams assign. So this is where I always say, this is where the magic happens. This is where the organization, the stakeholders, decide on what problem to solve, so to speak. What do we want to take on? What do we want to apply for? It doesn't talk about what product, what service we're going to build to satisfy the customer job, but it talks about what to take on. So this is super.
And before you continue, just for our audience to understand customer job, meaning what problem are we going to solve for the customer, correct? Is that the definition of customer job?
Yeah, in a wider sense, it is kind of the outcome a customer wants to achieve. What's behind drilling a hole in the wall? It may be
Yes.
beautifying your home. It's making more safe because you can fasten a cupboard with a wall, or you can do something. So what is the
Right.
actual need behind an action, so to speak? It can be a very tactical thing, like getting something from A to B. It could be an emotional job to be done. I want to have a peace of mind. Can be a social job to be done. I want to be loved and recognized from others. These are all jobs to be done.
Yes. Right.
And so here we list both functional, social, emotional jobs to be done. So what are the positive outcomes of an action? And then we decide, which are the ones that are that are important, not served well, and create a business opportunity for us.
Okay. So we get to tap in to letting the customer tell us exactly what's most important to them and align that with our business goals with regard to what we decide to what problem we try to solve based on the one that has the most significance to the customer that they will actually pay for. So we're more in tune with what the customer needs, is what it sounds like.
Yes, and we align the organization, which is also it has actually two aspects in my mind: is doing the right thing, not necessarily doing the things right, but doing the right thing. And the second is aligning the organization behind the decision, which is equally important to doing the right thing. As you can imagine, in real life, you want inclusion, you want collaboration, you want everyone involved. So and things can go wrong, and so if you have to blame someone, you have to blame all the stakeholders involved in it, which is it's different, right?
And that's one of the things that many organizations miss is many businesses operate in so many silos that they can't be aligned internally, or internal and external stakeholders aren't aligned. So you're kind of answering my next question. So then how does the Wheel of Progress help with that? What does it do for strategic alignment?
Yeah, great. Let me show that also on a slide. The Wheel of Progress was built after we did for a number of years jobs to be done interviews, but we were kind of lacking a tool to capture customer progress. And let me share my screen again. And then we looked at the existing frameworks out there, and we said, okay, we don't want like 10 different canvases on walls. We want it on one canvas or one board that is able to capture customer interviews, jobs to be done interviews, how we call them. And so this is how it looks like. It would be too much to talk about it in very detail, but you can see like the structure of it. You can see there is there are graphics, there are areas that capture the whole customer journey. So after we do the customer interviews, we have a wheel of progress in front of us, and then we populate it with data. And you can see here in black different data types. I talked about the timeline, which is like the outside of that donut shape. It's like 9 o'clock. You start with the first thought. What were the first thoughts that people had before going on a customer journey? That they thought something is wrong. I may at some point change something. You have trigger events. You do have you have constraints in the middle. It's a wheel. So if you have lots of constraints, you can think of them as like a rusty hub. It's squeaky, it's rusty, it doesn't want to turn well. Last year I did a project in the US healthcare area where there were lots of constraints because of existing laws and so on. So you could see that it was hard to make any progress because there were so many regulations, and it created a lot of pain also. because people couldn't fix their own issues. So you could see, just because of the number of constraints, that it may be worthwhile to create a solution in that area. But also you have like the emotions, you have the habits and the pushes, you have desired outcomes and things you want to avoid in a new solution. You have pulls and anxieties related to a product, a new product, some things you find attractive, some things that turn you that you don't like. And then you have, of course, solutions hired at 6 o'clock. So all the solutions that you looked at and maybe acquired. And then you have the customer jobs. These are experienced jobs to be done with their pains and their gains. These are 12 elements in total. And we found that these are enough. We don't need anything else. We don't look at demographics, because demographics, honestly, they're not causal. There are people at 102-year-old who run. I've seen lately very crazy things, like what old people do. So so we don't look at ethnicity or age or whatever. We don't look at that. These are the things that we find actionable data that we can use later on for strategy development, which I'm going to show on a different slide. But you can see that how the wheel of progress works, and it's very efficient for the interview evaluation process, because you don't have any backlog anymore. When you do it in real time, maybe 50 minutes after the interview is done and you have cleaned up the data, you're done, and then you move on to the next interview. So you don't carry that heavy bag of backlog of interview evaluations.
So before we wrap up, so if I'm a listener who is not so familiar with, well, most people aren't familiar with this process, but what I'm hearing is I'm going to be able to receive deep layers of actionable insight from this process, that should I then take that and investigate further, do even more research to either validate the scope of the opportunity that it presents. And by that, I mean, if after you've done interviews with customers, lots of times research creates more research. Would you suggest or recommend that, based on the findings of this process, using the wheel of progress and everything else, that people then pursue even further research on those areas that they have further questions on?
Yeah, the way I would answer this is a great question. What else do we need? It's like when you do the research, and let's say you do like 10 interviews. The 11th interview may yield very little additional knowledge.
Right.
So what we typically see is like, yeah, you can, there may be like an incremental value of doing even more research, but one of our deliverables is a customer job map. And that customer job map doesn't expand to the infinitive. It's a that job map has boundaries in terms of items along the sequence of customer jobs, and also in the hierarchy of customer jobs. And the 11th or the 100th customer job may not yield more knowledge. So we can see when we do these interviews that there's a finite amount of typical customer jobs, pains, gains, and so on. So that would be my answer to that question is, I would assess it during the project if we learn considerably new things, because maybe the conditions under these customer jobs are performed are so vastly different, then there may be that there are areas that we haven't seen before. But when the focus of that project is tight, then it's really finite. And as I said, the 11th or the 21st interview doesn't reveal any more knowledge. Where I would invest then the research dollars is in the solution space. We may have a well-defined problem space, so to speak, with customer jobs and so on, but in the solution space where we then need to test product solutions, maybe there are crazy things that we have no idea how customers would react to that. That's where I would spend then the extra effort is concept testing, building MVP, wireframes. I mean, doing the whole suite of A/B testing and so on. But that pre-work usually is more tight, I would say.
Okay. Look, Eckhart, this is, like I said, this is ground shaking for many of us hearing this level of granularity just at the level of customer understanding. And it's really clear that there's a lot we don't know that we thought we knew. So if you had to give 2 or 3 reasons to leaders in our audience as to why they need to understand their customer at this level of granularity before designing strategy, what 2 or 3 reasons would you say?
I love this question. I really love it because that is, we don't do it for the fun of it. I mean, I like doing customer research and actually we don't call it customer research, we call it analysis, which is points more to, we know exactly what we are looking for. It's not like exploratory going left and right. No, we have these 12 things that we look for. But nevertheless, could we save this time and this effort and this money by doing other things? And I don't think so. I think human to human conversation, interviewing customers, hearing their stories, hearing their experiences, and purposefully work with these customer statements and turn them into actionable data is something that is indispensable. You have to do it. Because if you want to grow, and this is like what 99% of organizations leader want, they want to grow the organization. You need to build new things and you need to sell them. So you need to see both sides and being informed and being intelligent about the customer, how they buy and what they need and how you can serve it. That's the number one argument. Otherwise, it's a flight by night. In my mind. So this would be one. And we want to solve problems that are worth solving. We don't want to solve any problems. So you want to have a structured process. You don't want 10 people in a room discussing customer needs, right? It doesn't lead to anything, and perhaps the loudest person gets their way. Right? You want inclusion, you want alignment, you want rational criteria, and be able to go back later on and look at how was this decision made? Did we overlook something? Did we misunderstand something? And there are $1 million and €1 million problems because people are working under the wrong assumptions. There was one company that looked very closely at, and they had an idea about a customer job. It was like an emergent customer job, what they had. And they felt miserably because they made this wrong assumption. So this would be the second, solving the right problem. And also, many companies today, they are looking at technology to solve customer experience issues. And what I've seen is that, like with AI is the big thing right now. They don't really think about what problem can we solve best with AI. And that's fair. If AI is your goal, using AI, deploying AI, building solutions around AI, that's totally fair. But nevertheless, you need to understand what problem to solve. And there may be use cases where AI is the wrong answer.
Yes.
Remember one story of one of my clients. He told me that they digitized an onboarding process for customers, for new customers. It was a credit card company or credit card reader company. And they said that was the wrong thing they did. is to digitize that process, because people, these small businesses, they wanted to have contact with a human being because they were so afraid of doing something wrong or whatever. I don't know what the reason were, but he told us that was the main thing, because why they missed their numbers, because they thought digitizing everything, that's a no-brainer. It's not. They need to understand where is AI, where's digitization, where's integration, automation, whatever the technology is. Where is it the right answer? And instead of risking solving the wrong problem with your technology, you should invest the time and the money and really understand customer jobs, which are technology agnostic, and figure out what problem to solve, so to speak.
Well said, Eckhart. My goodness. I know this was like a university class in 47 minutes for many people listening. So thank you so much for your time, Eckhart. We appreciate you and UniPro Solutions. You guys are doing great work, and I can't wait to see the problems that you continue to solve. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to give our love, our IAM CX love, back to Eckhart Böhme of UniPro Solutions. Thank you so much for your time, your insight, your evidence, and your teaching. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you understand the point of this is, if you don't know your customer granularly enough, everything, including your business, will suffer. There is a cost to not knowing enough about your customer, as we found out today with data. So thank you again for coming to this episode of the IAM CX podcast. I am Roger Nicholas, Director of Customer Experience at IAM CX. And thanks again. Have a great day and go win.